Hi, I'm Liz Kozar with Park Bench Estes Park, and I am at Sky Pond Photography and Video Studio, and I have the privilege of introducing you to the owner, Alex Ho. Alex, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. So I just want to kind of dive in, and can you tell us about your business? Obviously, it's photography and video, but dig into it a little bit more for us.
Sure. My business is basically based, I have a lot of people asking me what I do, and I always tell them it's basically anything photography or video. I like doing everything. If there's something I'm uncomfortable with, I'll let people know if I'm not, you know, like made to do that. But it's anything from, real estate photography. My main things are portrait photography. I do a little bit of weddings. I like doing weddings. It's a pretty competitive market up here. And down to, I do a lot of philanthropy videos, places like the YMCA, the EPNRC, et cetera, down the way. So it's basically anything photo or video.
That's awesome. And so in the studio here, are these pieces that people can actually purchase, or are they just personal?
It is. The funny thing is you look behind us and there's no price tags or anything on there. I had an oddly busy summer this summer with 6 videos, or I think 7. I usually only do about 2 or 3. Just happened to be everybody wanted them. And last winter, when it came about, this was kind of just an open space. Had a lot of my equipment in it. It was kind of comfy couch up here. But last winter, my daughter, who's 14, she's 15 now, was like, "Dad, you should just, it's empty space. It's not being used. You should start a gallery." I'm like, "Oh man, that's a lot of work." so,
But you listened to her.
well, not really. The funny thing was that, with all this stuff out here, it looked really nice in here. People would come in and be like, "I really like the space," but there's really nothing to sell in here. So when it came about February, it's getting pretty close to the time when you have to start, thinking about getting ready for the summer.
Right.
She actually took me by my hand and got me to one of the spots and said, "Okay, you need to start breaking down this thing, and once you start, you're stuck." And I was stuck. I tore down one of my equipment racks over there. It started getting messy. I'm like, "Oh, thanks." And it was a lot of work, but it was fun.
Oh, that's neat. So how did you get started in the business?
Interesting thing is, my last course I took in college was a photography course. It was just I needed a couple credits. It was a nature photography course up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And kind of just really fell in love with the fact of being able to kind of take a picture and kind of show where you were and show other people kind of what it feels like to be in that spot. And I went to Boulder a little bit after college. I was a natural resource major. So I did dabbled a little bit in that, but then ultimately ended up owning a deli in Maine. I love to cook, but Maine really wasn't the spot for me. I loved Acadia National Park. Grew up there. My parents took me up there, my whole life. When I was a kid, we lived in New York. And then ended up, my wife got a job out here at Rocky Mountain National Park and ended up out here. And I worked for photography studio, Photos by Dill, up at the YMCA of the Rockies for 15 years.
Oh, wow.
And then, things came around, time came to move on, and I knew that I wanted to stay in the photography business, so I kind of just started a photography business.
We had talked about how you got into the business,
right.
And kind of you, through just circumstance, really, you had a love for photography,
right.
Took a class, but you kind of ended up here for your love of nature? I mean, would that be?
Yeah, no if and or buts. I knew I wanted. I've tried places. I lived in Austin for a little while, and it was always the mountains. I mean, really, you wake up. I mean, you're here for the same reason.
Yes.
Everybody else that I meet here is for the same reason. And there's certain people like my daughter who are like, "Oh my God, get me out of the mountains," and they're not here. It's an interesting place to live. So, yeah, I mean, really with the portrait photography and the video and stuff, in this business, there's always a saying, being a nature photographer, you got to be a better marketer than you are a photographer, right? I mean, that's simple facts. There are certain people who have the gift of both, like Eric Stensland down at Images Rocky Mountain National Park. that are just good at both, right? So I knew right away that, you know, this is more my passion in a way, but really where the money's made is, you know, portrait photography, doing videos, real estate photography. You know, I enjoy all of that. And the funny thing is, as time went on, I found that I really love that stuff. You know, at the beginning, it's like dealing with people, you're like, oh, I'd rather be taking pictures of mountains. But after a while, I really fell in love with, you know, the creativity of anything from really portrait photography down to making a house look great if you're doing real estate photography.
Well, and I have to just share because Alex did take some professional photos for my business, and you do have a gift of you've made me feel very comfortable. There's nothing more intimidating than having a camera in front of you. It really is, unless you're a natural, you know, newscaster or whatever, but you really do have a gift for that. So can you share, have you had any, like, what is your most memorable, whether it be photo shoot or photo that you've taken?
You know, when it comes down to that, it's you know, sometimes you take pictures, and I used to shoot film a lot, so you really didn't know what you got until you got back. I hate to say digital takes a little bit out of that, but you know, I shoot all digital now. But it's really about, I think the reason why I go out and I wake up really early to, you know, hike however long to get, you know, it's often at midnight.
I think I did read that about you. Like
yeah,
you actually get up at midnight,
and go
hike somewhere.
Yeah, and as I get older, you know, I have to get up earlier. I'm so much slower. It's funny, I'm like going as fast as I can. I'm like, why is it taking me an hour longer to do this 6-mile hike? So it really has.
Well, that's still pretty admirable.
Right. So for me, it's all about, you know, I love hiking. If I didn't take pictures, I wouldn't be getting up at 12. Period. You know, I'd look at other people's sunrise pictures and be like, wow, that's pretty up there at that time. I'd be getting up, you know, at 9 and going. But for me, it's being up, like say this picture of Chasm Lake behind us. Being up there by yourself, you know, usually you're there by yourself sunrise, and if you're not, it's usually some other person with their eye on a camera. Or climbers walking by you, but they seldom stop. They're usually going somewhere. And just sitting there and being like, oh my God, it's like, this is what life is all about. Yeah.
That's awesome. And you know, I think it goes hand in hand. My next question was going to be, when you're not doing this, what do you enjoy doing? But it almost seems like,
you know, what I enjoy doing is we had this conversation before this started, is, you know, I'm not a super outgoing person. I like being around people in the sense of, like, when I took your headshot and when I go out with families, to see people enjoying nature. Because really, I think the point of looking into the future is really to get people to like the outdoors. So whether or not you come here and you're doing car camping with your kids in Moraine Park, or you're walking down through Estes Park and you see Long's Peak behind you, I think, you know, that's what I like. So to me, you know, whether or not I'm taking portraits outside, people are coming up here for a wedding, there's the underlying current that everybody's here for the same reason. You know, you don't come to Estes Park to go to amusement park, right? You come here for the same reason. And that's what I like doing. I like, you know, and I think the great thing about Estes Park is a lot of people ask me, you know, sure, there's Rocky Mountain National Park, but why, you know, why do you like Estes Park? You live here and there's harsh winters and stuff. And I think it's because I meet people with the same thinking. You know, I always say Estes Park, you do well in Estes Park, doesn't matter if you're religious, what political faction you're with. You know, if you like dogs or cats, is that, as long as you're a good person, you do well here. You know, I'm not saying I'm the best person in the world, but as long as you're a kind-hearted person that cares, you do well here. So, I mean, that's what I like, because hiking and stuff, you know, I only do it once a week at most. So.
Yeah, and for me, going that mileage, that's about a once a year feat, but I'm gonna get better at that. But that's pretty profound. I mean, I love hearing that, and I think that's very true of why people do come here. I mean, I'm a newcomer here. I've only been here just over a year, and I'm getting to meet the people and know they have a passion for life here, and they're not here because of a job or, you know, they're here because they want to be.
Right.
So that's really pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
So, this past year I did a job for EPNRC, which was Estes Park nonprofit resource. Okay. So, yeah, I've been referring to them as EPNRC the
That's
whole
okay.
time.
Yeah,
I'm like,
those
for
acronyms,
those
what
people,
is it?
they do something. Yeah, I mean, it kind of along the whole way is last year I did, or last year. So this current summer I did a job for the Estes Park nonprofit resource center, and I met like so many people who give so much in this town, and you see that as an underlying thing with businesses here. I'm always amazed at how much people do to give back, which is pretty cool. And not everybody does it, and I'm not a saint, though really so far, after seeing EPNRC, I really want to get more involved, but what I really do is I'm part of 1% for the Planet, if you know Patagonia, the clothing,
Yes,
I give 1%
absolutely.
of gross, and really that's kind of a cop-out. It's easy, but I still do it.
Well, that's absolutely.
Yeah, so, but as I was out there, I saw so many other people like giving huge amounts of time, effort, product, their brain power to make this a better place, whether or not be for the kids, for the park, things like the Rocky Mountain Conservancy. And that was really cool for me because, it really actually got me into the point of wanting to go out and do more. I'm not going to become like, super philanthropist, but to be able to give a little here and there. And that's what it's all about, right? It's just like 1% for the planet. And what I found the most interesting thing is Eric Stensland once again. And he's obviously not the only good photographer here. There's so many other good ones like James Frank but he started something called Nature's First, which for me as a nature photographer is really important. It's basically an organization that promotes responsible nature photography. I don't know if you've been in the park a lot, but you see some of these places that, this is all rocks, but you can still do damage to say the lichen. But you see certain images that people take, and you go back there year after year, and year after year, you see it being trampled. You see people fighting for it. You see, all this stuff, and I'm really into nature, but they have, and excuse me if I get this wrong, about 8 principles, I think, about how to be a responsible nature photographer. And even for me, being here 20 years, I've read these principles, and it's changed the way I've looked at both photographing, not that I was out there trampling stuff, but, it's just principles to follow to ensure that, as we get busier, the Front Range gets overrun, we go from 3 million to 4-point-some million visitors, that it's the responsibility of a nature photographer to be responsible about how they approach it so they can be an example to other people. I haven't quite gotten there yet, but things like that I think are super important. And, as you get older, those are the things that matter more. So, that's kind of what else I'd definitely like to say.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That takes it a deeper level, this is not just a business, it's a passion. Nature comes into that, the respect for the nature, so kind of comes full circle. Yeah. That's pretty neat.
It does.
Well, it was a pleasure having time with you today and getting to know you a little bit more. I really enjoyed it, and I'm sure those out there who are viewing the video will too. So thank you, Alex.
Yeah,
Sky Pound Photography and Video. There'll be some information here on the Park Bench link, ways to get in contact with Alex. What is the name of the area that you're at here?
This is Piccadilly Square.
Okay, thank you.
So we're easiest, since nobody knows me, Rock Cut Brewery. It's right next door.
Yeah, right next to the
People
brewery.
know Rock Cut,
And
yeah.
you do have a parking lot here, which is awesome too.
Which is
so
great,
stop by and see Alex. Thank you so much for joining us.